Sub-Commander Velkorn crouched in the armored communications bunker that served as Firebase Kepler-7's last functioning command center. Outside, the human sniper continued his systematic destruction of everything that represented Galactic Council authority on Kepler 442b. Inside, what remained of the base's command staff huddled around tactical displays that showed their own helplessness in stark, unforgiving detail. 18 shots fired, 11 confirmed kills, 7 critical infrastructure targets destroyed, 0 enemy casualties inflicted in return. "Sir," reported the duty analyst, his voice barely above a whisper, "long-range sensors are detecting dropships approaching from orbit. Multiple vessels, unknown configuration." Velkorn felt his stomach tighten. "Council reinforcements?" "Negative, sir. The signatures do not match any known Council fleet vessels." Estimated time to arrival, 37 minutes. Through the bunker's narrow observation slit, Velkorn could see smoke rising from a dozen different fires across the base. The humans' latest shots had targeted fuel depots, ammunition storage, and vehicle maintenance facilities. It was not random destruction. It was surgical dismantling of the base's operational capability, conducted with a precision that spoke of intimate knowledge of military vulnerabilities. "How is this possible?" Velkorn muttered. "One human. One wounded, dying human with primitive weapons." Major Sektorth, the base's surviving senior officer, consulted his tactical computer with shaking hands. "Sir, I have been analyzing the engagement pattern. The human is not simply shooting targets of opportunity. He is following a specific tactical doctrine designed to maximize psychological impact while minimizing resource expenditure." "Explain." "Each target has been selected for maximum disruption to our command and control capabilities. He eliminated our commander first, then our intelligence coordinator, then our communications, then our logistics support. This is not the random violence of a desperate individual. This is systematic warfare conducted by a trained professional." Velkorn studied the tactical display, trying to understand how a single enemy could reduce a modern military installation to helplessness. "What does this suggest about human military doctrine?" "That we have seriously underestimated their capabilities." "Sir, the 19th shot came through the bunker's observation slit, missing Velkorn by centimeters before striking the tactical display in an explosion of sparks and shattered electronics. The sub-commander threw himself against the bunker wall, his heart racing with the knowledge that the human had just demonstrated an ability to play shots with surgical precision at ranges that should have been impossible for primitive weapons. "He is toying with us," Velkorn whispered. That shot was a warning. Marcus Rodriguez had indeed intended the shot as a message. He could have killed the remaining Zephyrian officers at any point during the past hour, but death was too simple for creatures who had murdered children. Fear was a more appropriate punishment for beings who thought themselves superior to humanity. His rifle had 3 rounds remaining. His body was failing from blood loss and dehydration. His broken leg had swollen to twice its normal size. An infection was setting in around his abdominal wound. By any medical standard, he should have been dead hours ago, but Marcus had not survived Earth's resource wars by following medical standards. The approaching dropships were visible now as bright points of light against the afternoon sky. Marcus had recognized their configuration immediately. Earth Defense Force transports, modified for long-range deployment. The cavalry was coming, but they would arrive to find that the fighting was already over. Marcus had one final lesson to teach the Galactic Council. His 20th shot struck the base's main reactor coolant system, triggering an emergency shutdown that plunged Firebase Kepler-7 into darkness. Emergency lighting flickered on after a moment, casting everything in hellish red shadows that made the smoke and flames look like visions from an ancient Earth mythology about punishment in the afterlife. His 21st shot eliminated the guard who had been trying to set up a plasma cannon to return fire. The weapon went silent before it could achieve target lock. Its operator sprawled across its mounting bracket, his 22nd, and final shot was aimed not at the bunker where the surviving officers cowered, but at the Galactic Council flag that flew above the base's administrative center. The bullet cut through the fabric, sending the symbol of alien authority fluttering to the ground like a dying bird. Then Marcus Rodriguez set down his rifle and waited. The EDF dropships landed in the ruins of New Montana just as the sun began to set. Captain Sarah Chun led the first squad out of the transport, her powered armor gleaming in the orange light of the burning alien base. Behind her came 2 companies of Earth's finest soldiers, armed with weapons that made Zephyrian plasma rifles look like toys. "Rodriguez?" Captain Cheng called across the rocky terrain. "Marcus Rodriguez. Respond if you can hear this." The answer came from a position 800 meters away, barely audible over the wind. "Here, Captain." One human very much alive. Chun's relief was audible through her helmet speakers. "We monitored Council communications about the attack on your colony. Fleet Command sent us to investigate." "Investigation complete," Marcus replied. "New Montana is gone? Firebase Kepler 7 is neutralized. Recommend immediate establishment of human military presence on Kepler 442b." Chun approached Marcus's position with a full medical team. What she found there would become legend throughout the Earth Defense Force. A single human soldier who had reduced an alien military installation to helplessness with nothing but a rifle, determination, and the absolute refusal to accept defeat. "How many casualties did you inflict?" Chun asked as the medics worked to stabilize Marcus's condition. "Enough," Marcus replied. "The survivors will remember what happened here." In the bunker, Sub-Commander Velkorn watched through surveillance cameras as human soldiers moved through the ruins of his base with casual efficiency. Their equipment was generations beyond anything the Galactic Council possessed. Their tactics demonstrated coordination and training that spoke of a military tradition forged in countless wars. Their very presence radiated the confidence of a species that had never learned to surrender. "Sir," the duty analyst reported, "we are receiving a transmission from the human forces." The message came through on all frequencies, delivered in perfect galactic standard by a human officer whose voice carried absolute authority. "This is Captain Sarah Chun of the Earth Defense Force, addressing Galactic Council. Forces on Kepler 442b, you are ordered to surrender unconditionally and prepare for repatriation to Council space. Any resistance will be met with immediate and overwhelming force." Velkorn looked around the bunker at his surviving staff. They were professional soldiers of a species that had conquered dozen worlds. They had trained for decades in the arts of war. They commanded technology that could level mountains and boil seas. They were also completely, utterly, catastrophically defeated. "Transmit our surrender," Velkorn ordered. The response came immediately. "Surrender acknowledged. Remain in your current positions. Transport will be provided to the nearest Council facility. You will carry a message to your superiors." "What message?" "That the Galactic Council's single error was not understanding what humanity becomes when you threaten our families." 3 days later, the survivors of Firebase Kepler 7 stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council High Command. Their report was received in stunned silence by representatives of 200 species, each of whom had assumed that humanity was a minor inconvenience to be managed. Through careful application of superior force, Sub-Commander Velkorn's testimony was brief and devastating. "Honorable Counselors, I regret to inform you that our assumptions about human military capabilities were incorrect. A single wounded human soldier left for dead by my patrol eliminated an entire military installation using primitive weapons and individual initiative. He demonstrated tactical abilities that exceed our current understanding of what individual combatants can achieve." The Altarian representative leaned forward in his seat. "Sub-Commander, are you suggesting that one human defeated an entire Zephyrian regiment?" "I am reporting facts, Counselor. That human turned our base into a funeral pyre while we cowered in bunkers. When human reinforcements arrived, we surrendered without firing a shot because we understood that further resistance was suicide." The council chamber erupted in heated debate. Some species demanded immediate military action against Earth, others called for diplomatic negotiations. A few suggested that humanity should be offered full membership in the Council immediately. Before they decided to take it by force, the debate continued for days, but the outcome was inevitable. The Galactic Council officially recognized humanity's right to expand beyond their approved zones. Human colonies would be granted full protection under Council law. The pacification operations were permanently discontinued. Marcus Rodriguez spent 6 months in a military hospital recovering from his wounds. When he was discharged, he found that Earth had established a permanent memorial on Kepler 442b. The site of New Montana was now home to a monument bearing the names of all 237 colonists who had died in the attack. At the base of the monument, a simple plaque read, "In Commander Thex Noun of the Galactic Council's 3rd Pacification Fleet stood on the observation deck of Firebase Kepler 7, reviewing the morning's intelligence reports with the satisfaction of a job well done. The elimination of the human settlement designated New Montana had proceeded exactly according to protocol. No survivors, no resistance, no complications that might require additional resources or extended deployment." His aide, Subcommander Velkorn, approached with the day's patrol assignments displayed on a holographic tablet. "Sir, the perimeter sweeps report no signs of human activity in the target zone. The civilian evacuation appears to have been prevented entirely." "Excellent," Dexnoun replied, his mandibles clicking with approval. "The humans' tendency toward emotional attachment to their settlements makes them predictable. They choose to fight rather than flee, and fighting makes them easy to eliminate." Other officers gathered around the tactical display that dominated the observation deck. The 3-dimensional projection showed the entire operational area, with green indicators marking secured zones and red markers identifying remaining objectives. The red markers were few and widely scattered. Within another week, Kepler 442b would be officially classified as pacified and available for colonization by approved species. "What of the other human colonies in this sector?" asked Major Junkelth, the base's intelligence coordinator. "Our analysis suggests they will not abandon their settlements voluntarily." Vex Noun gestured toward the tactical display with obvious confidence. "They will learn from the example we have set here. Humans may be stubborn, but they are not completely irrational. When they understand the futility of resistance, they will relocate to approved zones of their own accord." The morning briefing proceeded with military efficiency. Patrol schedules were confirmed, supply allocations were reviewed, and intelligence summaries were distributed to unit commanders. It was a routine administrative session, conducted with the casual professionalism of an army that had never faced serious opposition. None of the officers noticed the muzzle flash from the Rock's 800 meters away. Commander Thexnoun's head simply disappeared in a spray of blue blood and bone fragments. His body remained upright for a moment, as if unaware that its central nervous system had ceased to exist. Before toppling backward onto the deck plating, the crack of the rifle shot reached the observation deck a full second later, echoing off the mountain walls like distant thunder. For another second, the assembled officers stood frozen in shock, trying to process what had just happened to their commanding officer, then subcommander. Velkorn began screaming orders into his communication device. "Sniper contact! Sniper contact! All units to defensive positions. Medical team to the observation deck." The base's alarm system activated, filling the mountain air with wailing sirens and automated announcements in a dozen galactic languages. Guard towers swiveled their searchlights toward the approximate direction of the shot, sweeping across the rocky terrain in overlapping patterns. Quick reaction teams poured from barracks buildings, their plasma rifles charged and ready. 800 meters away, Marcus Rodriguez was already moving. The first rule of counter-sniper warfare was never to fire from the same position twice. Marcus had learned that lesson during the siege of Phoenix, where corporate snipers had turned the downtown district into a maze of interlocking kill zones. Static positions were death traps. Movement was survival. Marcus's broken leg made traditional tactical movement impossible, but 30 years of combat experience had taught him to adapt. He crawled through the rocks using his elbows and one good leg, dragging his rifle beside him. Each movement was agony, but agony was temporary. Reputation was forever. The Zephyrians would need approximately 6 minutes to organize a proper response to sniper fire. Their training emphasized collective action over individual initiative, which made them effective in conventional battles but slow to react to unexpected threats. Marcus intended to use those 6 minutes wisely. His second position was 300 meters from the first, carefully selected during his nighttime reconnaissance. It offered excellent concealment among the boulders while maintaining a clear view of the base's primary landing pad. If the Zephyrians followed standard protocol, they would attempt to evacuate their senior staff via dropship while ground forces searched for the shooter. Marcus settled behind his rifle and waited. The evacuation began exactly as predicted. A sleek Zephyrian transport descended from the morning sky, its anti-gravity engines humming with barely contained energy. Marcus could see figures moving purposefully across the landing pad, their body language radiating the controlled urgency of a military unit under fire. Through his cracked scope, Marcus identified Major Junkelth among the evacuees. The intelligence coordinator was carrying what appeared to be classified data modules, probably containing operational plans for the sector's remaining human settlements. Those plans would not reach Galactic Council headquarters. Marcus took a breath, released half of it, and gently squeezed the trigger. The Major's torso exploded in a cloud of blue mist, and the data modules clattered across the landing pad like oversized dice. The other evacuees dove for cover behind the transport. Their orderly withdrawal dissolved into panicked confusion. Marcus was already moving again. By the time the shot's echo faded, the Zephyrian response was swift but predictable. Artillery shells began impacting around his previous position, turning the rocks into clouds of superheated fragments. Plasma charges scorched the mountainside in expanding spirals, following search patterns that were textbook perfect and completely useless. They were hunting for an enemy who followed their rules. Marcus had stopped following rules the day he watched children die. In the streets of New Montana, his third position overlooked the base's communication array, a cluster of dish antennas and transmission towers that connected Firebase Kepler-7 to the broader Galactic Council network. Standard doctrine called for maintaining contact with higher command during crisis situations. Marcus had other plans for their communications. The shot was more difficult this time, requiring precise placement to sever the primary transmission cable, without triggering the array's automated backup systems. Marcus steadied his rifle against a boulder, calculated wind drift and target movement, and fired a single round that cut through the cable housing like a surgical scalpel. The communication array went dark immediately, its status lights flickering from green to amber to red in rapid succession. Firebase Kepler-7 was now effectively isolated from the rest of the Galactic Council's forces. Whatever happened, here would happen without outside interference. Sub-Commander Velkorn was beginning to understand that he faced something outside his training parameters. The base's tactical center had become a chaos of overlapping voices and contradictory orders. Every sensor sweep failed to locate the sniper. Every response team found nothing but empty rocks and spent shell casings. Every attempt to contact Fleet Command met with static and silence. How many humans are we facing? Velkorn demanded of his intelligence staff. Unknown, sir, replied the duty analyst, his mandibles clicking with nervous energy. We have confirmed 3 separate firing positions, but the timing suggests a single shooter displacing between shots. Impossible, Velkorn snapped. No single individual could maintain that rate of accurate fire while moving across broken terrain. We must be facing a coordinated team. The analyst consulted his tactical computer, reviewing sensor data and ballistic analysis. Sir, the evidence suggests otherwise. Each shot displays identical firing characteristics, same caliber, same ballistic signature, same targeting methodology. If this is a team, they are using identical weapons and identical training. Velkorn studied the tactical display, trying to reconcile the impossible with the evidence. 3 confirmed kills at extreme range, executed with surgical precision, followed by immediate displacement to new firing positions. It was the work of a master sniper, but no single individual should have been capable of such sustained accuracy under battlefield conditions. "What about the wounded human my patrol reported yesterday?" Velkorn asked. "The one they left to die in the outer perimeter?" The analyst's expression shifted from confusion to something approaching fear. "Sir, that individual was assessed as critically wounded and unlikely to survive. The patrol classified him as a non-threat." "Find that patrol," Velkorn ordered. Now, the search took precious minutes that Marcus used to devastating effect. His 4th shot eliminated the base's senior engineer as she attempted to repair the communication array. His 5th shot destroyed a fuel depot, sending a pillar of orange flame into the sky that could be seen for kilometers. His 6th shot killed the medical officer who was treating the wounded from previous attacks. Each shot came from a different position. Each shot was followed by immediate displacement. Each shot demonstrated a level of individual marksmanship that Galactic Council forces had never encountered. The 3-man patrol that had discovered Marcus was found in the base's recreational facility, enjoying what they had assumed would be a routine day off duty. When Sub-Commander Velkorn burst through the entrance with a squad of guards, they were playing a Zephyrian game similar to poker. The wounded human, Marcus Rodriguez, had been dying for 3 days when the Zephyrian patrol found him. The bullet wound in his abdomen leaked crimson into the rocky soil of Kepler 442b. And his water had run out yesterday? His rifle lay beside him, its scope cracked from the fall that had broken his leg. The human colony of New Montana was nothing but ash and memory now. Another casualty in the Galactic Council's systematic cleansing of unauthorized settlements. The 3 Zephyrians who discovered him were young scouts, their blue-scaled faces showing the casual contempt their species held for humans. They stood over Marcus with their plasma rifles pointed downward, discussing him in their clicking language as if he were already dead. "This one still breathes," said the first scout, whose name was Kethvar. His translation device rendered his words in flat, emotionless tones. "Not for long," replied his companion Shendal. "The humans are weak. They die easily." The 3rd scout, Morkelk, nudged Marcus with his boot. "Should we finish it?" Kethvar considered this. The Galactic Council's orders were clear: eliminate all human presence on contested worlds. But this particular human was clearly dying anyway, and their patrol schedule was already behind. Commander Thexnoun would not appreciate delays over a single wounded primitive. "Leave it," Kethvar decided. "The planet will finish what we started." One less plasma charge wasted. They moved on, their anti-gravity boots making soft humming sounds as they departed. Marcus watched them go through eyes that refused to focus properly. He should have felt relieved, but all he felt was the familiar weight of failure pressing down on his chest. 237. Colonists had trusted him to protect them. Men, women, children who had risked everything to start new lives beyond Earth's crowded cities. His job had been simple: watch the perimeter, give early warning of Council forces, buy time for evacuations that would never come. Instead, he had missed the dropships until it was too late. By the time his first shot rang out across New Montana's main street, the Zephyrians were already among the civilians. Marcus had taken down 12 of them before a lucky plasma burst brought down the water tower he had been using as a sniper's nest. The fall should have killed him. Sometimes he wished it had. The alien patrol disappeared over the ridge, and Marcus was alone again with the wind and his pain. The smart thing would be to close his eyes and let the darkness take him. His duty was over. His failure was complete. There was nothing left but to accept the inevitable, but something deep inside him refused to surrender. Marcus had been 8 years old when the Galactic Council announced humanity's existence to the galaxy. The revelation that Earth harbored intelligent life had sent shockwaves through a community of spacefaring races who had assumed they were alone. Some species, like the philosophical Altarians, welcomed humanity with open arms. Others, like the militant Zephyrians, viewed them as a contamination to be cleansed. The Council's official position was neutrality, but their enforcement actions told a different story. Human colonies that expanded beyond the approved zones found themselves facing mysterious pirate attacks or equipment failures. Those that persisted faced direct military intervention under the guise of peacekeeping operations. New Montana had been one of the persistent ones. Marcus dragged himself toward a nearby boulder, his broken leg leaving a groove in the dirt. Every movement sent lightning through his nervous system, but he had learned to function through pain during his tours in Earth's Resource Wars. This was just another mission that had gone sideways. The difference was that this time there would be no extraction team coming for him. The boulder provided some shelter from the afternoon sun, and Marcus allowed himself to rest for a moment. His training told him to inventory his resources. One damaged rifle with maybe 20 rounds remaining. No food, no water, no medical supplies. One broken human with a grudge against the galaxy. It should not have been enough. By any reasonable calculation, Marcus Rodriguez was already dead, but reasonable calculations had never accounted for human stubbornness. The first rule of sniper warfare was patience. Marcus had learned that lesson in the rubble of Detroit, picking off corporate security forces while his unit held the food distribution centers. A good sniper could wait for days for the perfect shot, existing in a state of controlled stillness that most people could not imagine. Marcus had patience. The second rule was preparation. Know your weapon, know your environment, know your enemy. Marcus had spent months studying Zephyrian patrol patterns before the attack on New Montana. He knew they favored elevated positions for their camps. He knew they rotated guards every 4 hours. He knew their commanders preferred decisive action over careful planning. Marcus had knowledge. The third rule was adaptability. When the mission went wrong, when the plan fell apart, when everything turned to chaos, a sniper improvised. He found new positions, acquired new targets, and kept shooting until there was nothing left to shoot at. Marcus had determination. As the sun set over the ruins of his colony, Marcus began to understand that the Zephyrians had made a mistake. They had assumed that one wounded human posed no threat to their operations. They had calculated his odds of survival and found them negligible. They had written him off as an irrelevant factor in their continued pacification of Kepler-442b. They were about to learn why humans had not asked permission before leaving Earth. The Zephyrian base was 15 kilometers away, built into the side of a mountain that overlooked the former colony site. Marcus could see its lights twinkling in the darkness, a constellation of artificial stars marking the positions of guard towers, landing pads, and command centers. Somewhere in that complex, officers were filing reports about the successful elimination of another unauthorized settlement. They would mention the complete destruction of infrastructure, the neutralization of all resistance, and the pacification of the surrounding territory. They would not mention the lone human they had left to die in the rocks. Marcus checked his rifle's action in the pale light of the alien moon. The scope was cracked but still functional at shorter ranges. The barrel was straight and the firing mechanism remained true. He had enough ammunition for a sustained engagement, provided he made every shot count. More importantly, he had something the Zephyrians did not expect. Time. They thought he was dying. They thought he was helpless. They thought he was irrelevant to their strategic calculations. In their arrogance, they had given him the greatest gift a sniper could receive. The element of surprise. Marcus began to crawl. The journey to the Zephyrian base would take him 2 days across rough terrain with a broken leg and a gut wound that refused to stop bleeding. He would have to avoid patrols, find water, and somehow maintain his strength for what might be a prolonged engagement. The odds against success were astronomical. But the Galactic Council had made one critical error in their assessment of human nature. They had studied humanity's wars, analyzed their tactics, and cataloged their weapons. They had observed human behavior in controlled environments and drawn conclusions about human capabilities under stress. What they had failed to understand was that humans did not fight for victory. They fought for principle. They fought for justice. They fought because someone had to stand up to bullies. Regardless of the odds, Marcus Rodriguez was no longer fighting for New Montana. The colony was gone, its people dead or scattered to the solar winds. He was no longer fighting for the Outer Colonies Council, which had abandoned the frontier settlements to their fate. He was not even fighting for humanity, which remained blissfully unaware of what was happening in the contested zones. Marcus was fighting because 3 Zephyrian scouts had looked at him and decided he was not worth the cost of a plasma charge. He was fighting because the Galactic Council believed humans could be intimidated into submission. He was fighting because someone had to prove them wrong. The crawl through the darkness became a meditation on purpose. Each meter gained was a victory against physics and physiology. Each breath drawn was a defiance of medical probability. Each heartbeat was a declaration that humanity would not be dismissed so easily. By dawn, Marcus had covered 2 kilometers. By sunset, he had reached the outer perimeter of the Zephyrian base. By the time the alien guards began their evening rotation, he had found a position that would let him see into the heart of their operations. The Zephyrians had built their base according to standard Galactic Council protocols, overlapping fields of fire, redundant sensor networks, and clear sightlines in all directions. It was a fortress designed to withstand conventional assault by enemies who followed conventional rules of warfare. It was not designed to stop one human who had nothing left to lose. Marcus settled into his final position among the rocks, his rifle trained on the command center's observation deck. Through his damaged scope, he could see Zephyrian officers moving about their duties with the casual confidence of a victorious army. They believed their work on Kepler 442b was finished. They believed the human threat had been eliminated. They believed they were safe. In 6 hours, the morning shift would begin. Officers would gather for their daily briefing, reviewing reports from the night patrols and planning the day's consolidation activities. They would stand in neat formation on the observation deck, presenting themselves as perf.